Coming up on By the Book, join host Dorothy Spalding and today's leading authors with in-depth interviews, stories, and discussions, offering unique insight into the authors, their influences, and their latest works. Tune in today as Dorothy welcomes Janet Lee. Be sure to watch By the Book.
It's great.
How did you do it?
By the Book.
Where did you find that?
Did you see By the Book?
Yeah, it's a great show. By the Book.
New releases and authors?
I thought it was a great read.
I think I'm going to buy the book.
It's the best.
Did you get it?
You should.
Do it by the book.
The best authors.
New releases.
Let's watch.
By the Book.
Welcome to By the Book. My name is Dorothy Spalding, and today I've brought another one of my friends. You know, my friends are writing great books, and this is Janet Lee. She's been a friend for many years. In fact, her husband, who is a Jewish rabbi, said that I was going to be married to the man I'm married to.
Well, there you
so
go.
they've always been great friends. But I want to take, you've got two books, and we want to hit both books today. But I want to take, first of all, your husband's story.
Okay.
The story of a young Jewish boy who his parents were taken to the Holocaust, and he was snuck over to America. And tell me what happened.
Well, during that time, the time of the war, the people who were sympathetic to the Jews went behind and got the children, because they would take the adults first and take them to the concentration camps. That was the general way they did it. Then they would go back for the children and put them into orphanages or whatever. And so the sympathetic countries like United Kingdom, Canada, United States, or whoever would take them, would go in and get the children and sneak them out. Maybe with false passports. I don't know how they did it, but he ended up in an orphanage with his sister in the United States. And that's how he came to be here. And his family was all destroyed, the records and everything in the Holocaust. And
so
then,
sad.
yeah, and then he went through kind of like frying pan into the fire. The orphanage was not great. And that we tell in the book a lot of the situations that he went through as a child, and he was abused by the people who adopted him.
Well, so he gets adopted because they didn't want to separate him, right?
The two of them came together, the sister and him. And for some reason, the orphanage said, we're not going to separate him. Well, the parents wanted
Just the girl.
And they had to take him. So they said, well, okay, we'll take him on a temporary basis. And they kept telling him, we're not going to adopt you, we're taking you back. Or then after the adoption went through, we're going to take you to a boys' home or something. They were always threatening him.
But how bad is that? I mean, here you have a little boy just lost his real mama and daddy in a terrible situation, torn away from him, never to see them again. And now they're pulled over to a new country and in an orphanage, not so good, and then with a family who can't stand to have a little boy.
No. And he was, when he was adopted, he was 4 years old, and his sister was 2.5. So when you're very, very young like that, you're so impressionable. You know, you're impressionable age to where everything that happens to you is
huge.
Right. Even the littlest thing, like the littlest toy or the littlest thing taken away from you, or the punishments that they would give. Like when he came home, they gave him a bedroom, and then they said, oh, well, our uncle died here, you know, last year in the same room. I mean, just silly things. Why did they have to say that? You know, why did they have? And it makes you wonder. But he was abused mentally and physically for many, many years. Well, until he was of the age of 14, he couldn't take it anymore. And his sister and him decided together to do something terrible enough to be arrested and taken away. It had to be bad enough, though, to be taken away from what they considered to be a horrible place called home. And he never implicated his sister, although they did it together. But they set fire to
the barn.
The barn, the house. Well, his parents were really, really rich, and they thought their possessions were their God. So when you attack their possessions, then you attack their God. There's a lot of abuse going on, though, Dorothy, in the United States today. You would think in our country it wouldn't be that bad with all the organizations we have and people trying to do stuff, but there is things going on. And so from that, then they took him and they said, oh, well, we want him arrested, we want him out of here. And they placed him to be like a 30 to a 60-day observation in the local mental institution, but they were supposed to bring him back to court. That's the law. He was never brought back to court.
And sent off to
He was sent off and then turned over to be a ward of the state and left there, just dumped
in
there.
a mental institution where he faced great horrors.
Oh, it was awful. They eventually sent him to another one for the criminally insane. Nobody ever knew why, but he saw things done to people. He saw things overdosed on drugs. He saw people commit suicide. In the book, we go as far as we can and still tell the story without being overly graphic. But there were a lot of things we left out that were too much. But we left a lot in. He witnessed a murder, a person murdered. He would see all types of abuse of people in there.
They put those electric shocks on his head.
Yes, he had electric shock treatments, and then he was taken in and they said, on the last electric shock treatment they gave him, they said, we're having trouble with this problem with our equipment today. The last guy who was here, he died. Well, what a wonderful thing to say. Now we're going to attach you to the same equipment, you know.
Horrible.
But then they switched over to insulin shock, which I think is even worse. They strips the body of all sugar and puts you into such terrible convulsions that he ripped everything, straps and everything they had him down on. So he witnessed a lot of horrible...
Why did they do those horrible things?
To see what would happen when they did it, because he was a ward of the state. He didn't have anybody to say, oh, you can't do that, you know, he didn't like relatives or family. So they tried out things. He was a guinea pig, and they tried out things. And it went on like that for a long time until he met somebody, and we say this in the book, and this is the important part of the book. It's like the first part is how bad can it get? And then in the middle, he meets Jesus. And then it's how Jesus gets him out.
How did he meet Jesus? In an asylum, one of those places.
Oh, it was horrible. Yeah, well, you can't even talk to anybody. On certain wards, you weren't allowed to talk at all.
And wasn't he put in a hole or something into a dark area?
Well, the hole is a padded cell that's dark, no lights, nothing, just padded cell. And so it's...
For a teenage boy.
He went through this until he was, about the time he was 19, he gave his heart to the Lord, and then by the time he was 21, God miraculously got him out.
So that's 5 years.
7 years.
No, but I mean 5 years before he gave his heart to the Lord.
Right,
And
many things happened to him.
Torture and...
But how he came to know the Lord was an inmate that was there, witnessed to him, starting by telling him that he was rotten in everything he had ever done. He said, I already know that. He says, yes, but there's one who can help you. And he said, I'm in here for life, but I'm going to try to make a difference to everybody I can talk to. And this was just on one of those times when they were out, had that ability to go out on the courtyard and walk around. So when he came back to his cell, he prayed and he prayed and he prayed, and God came to him in a miraculous way, fabulous way. Right through the bars, through the mesh, through the horrible things that he was going through, right through everything. And God can do that in anyone's life if they'll just give him a chance. And miraculously changed him and came in and said, I am your Messiah, which of course to a Jew is very, very important, first words.
Yes.
And he says, I am going to send you around the world. And he goes, and how are you going to do that when I'm here? And they said, I'm never getting out. Well, that's when God starts putting together the steps, which we go into, of how miraculously he was able to be released.
Because usually when they're in that place, they never get out.
They never get out. We went back years later. We had a chance to go back and show our kids where it was and everything. And he said to a guard, he said, you see that building over there? I used to live there. And everybody started laughing. And later we said, why were they laughing? And a friend of ours said, because